Inshallah, we will begin. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I go on, I need to verify that everyone can hear and see me. If I can get a verification that I can be heard clearly and seen, then I will continue, inshallah. I just need to know if I can be heard and I can be seen, and then I'll continue, inshallah. If you can hear, you can see, please send me an indication. Let me know. Good, alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, so we'll begin, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. I'm broadcasting from the Gambia. Alhamdulillah. And so, you know, when you're in places like this, you're not always guaranteed a nice, good connection, inshallah. But I want to ask you all to share this video on your pages, let people know that we're here, and we don't intend on being long, inshallah. I'm in the shadow. I'm actually outside. Come on, talking about this shadow right here. It's nice and cool out here, so I wanted to be outside, and I figured I had enough lighting to do it. Maybe I should have done it inside, but in any case, alhamdulillah. If any of you know me, you know I don't really like to read whenever, you know, I'm given a lecture. If I read, it's normally in a class or something like that. I'm more of an extemporaneous speaker. I like to speak from the heart and the mind. I don't really like to read. I think it takes away from the impact. But I think in this case, it's necessary that I read. Let me see if this will help the shadow out a little bit. Another thing is I don't like reading from electronic devices. I like reading from paper if I have to read. But I'm reading from my laptop. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Qali Ibrahim, alhamdulillah. So bismillah, let's begin. I'm reading a statement that I prepared earlier. This same statement will be posted on our website, sent to our email, listings, etc. Inshallah. So you all will have access to a copy of what I'm reading. After beginning in the name of Allah and praising Allah and sending pieces of blessings upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I go on to say, on January 30th, 2019, a group calling itself MEMRI, which is an acronym standing for the Middle East Media Research Institute, they published a slanderous attack piece on me with the following title: Pittsburgh Imam Naeem Abdullah in lectures and sermons, Jews run everything, have all the money, and are cowards. Allah changed some Jews into monkeys, into apes and pigs. White supremacy has co-opted Judaism and Christianity. Modern day corrupt scholars call offensive jihad invalid. U.S. national who pled guilty on Al-Qaeda charges, Tariq Shah, was my housemate in New York and one of my wazirs or deputies. So that was their long title. This published attack uses carefully selected clips of my words from about a dozen khutbahs, sermons, classes, radio programs, and lectures. to stitch together the false narrative that I teach hatred for the Jewish community, disrespect for law enforcement, and intolerance of non-Muslims, among other things. This is the link to the attack article, and I have the link for the article in there. In a follow-up to this initial slander, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Peter Smith doubled down on the original report and, to add insult to injury, evoked the horrible massacre which took place in Pittsburgh on October 27, 2018 at the Tree of Life Synagogue. This is when a white supremacist, Robert Bowers, entered the synagogue and mercilessly executed 11 innocent Jewish worshipers during their services. He then ends his attack piece by quoting Joshua Sales, director of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh, who branded the talks as quote-unquote hate speech, and called for the isolation of our small, predominantly African-American congregation from the larger body of Muslims in the region. It is my intent to clarify these distortions. This, what I'm doing now, is addressed to the Muslim community in general and anyone else who sincerely desires to arrive at the truth. We have divided this into 7 issues, along with this introduction and a conclusion and successes with Allah. Issue number 1, a purposeful miscontextualization equals a lie. All of the clips used have been taken out of their original context and reworked in order to support this anti-Semitic, anti-law enforcement, pro-violence false narrative. Any Muslim or not who listens to the entirety, not the carefully selected clips, of any of these lectures would agree that they don't promote any of the aforementioned stereotypes. Issue number 2, I am not anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. Contrary to how they are trying to brand me, I do not personally hate, nor do I teach hate of any faction of the Jewish community. I'll go even further to say that it is un-Islamic to do so. As a Muslim, I believe Islam is the right and correct way of life, in the same way that any Christian or Jew believes they have chosen the correct path. In this same vein, it is against the Quran to make mockery of other people's understanding of God. And then I quote the verse from the Quran, and I'm reading the translation. And do not insult those who invoke other than Allah, lest they insult Allah in enmity without knowledge. Thus we have made pleasing to every community their deeds. Then to their Lord is their return, and He will inform them about what they used to do. And this is Surah Al-An'am. This is chapter number 6, verse number 108. And the translation is the Sahih International Translation. Issue number 3, reference to some Jews being transformed into monkeys and pigs. This is something miraculous that happened long before the coming of Muhammad, may Allah bless him and grant him peace. It is mentioned in the Quran, and I mentioned a series of verses here. And asked them about the town that was by the sea, when they transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath, when their fish came to them openly on their Sabbath day, and the day they had no Sabbath, they did not come to them. Thus did we give them trial because they were defiantly disobedient. And when a community among them said, do you advise or warn a people whom Allah is about to destroy or to punish with a severe punishment? They, the advisors, said, do be absolved before your Lord, and perhaps they may fear Him. And when they forgot that which they had been reminded, we saved those who had forbidden evil and seized those who had wronged with a wretched punishment, because they were defiantly disobeying. So when they were insolent about which they had been forbidden, we said to them, be apes despised. And all of those verses that I just read come from Surah Al-A'raf, which is chapter number 7, verses number 163 to 166. And it's the same translation, the Sahih International Translation. Another verse, say, shall I inform you of what is worse than the penalty from Allah? It is that of those whom Allah has cursed, and with whom He became angry, and made them apes and slaves of the Taghut. Those are worse in position and further astray from the sound way. This verse of Quran is Surah Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verse number 60. Again, the same translation, Sahih International. Classical Quranic commentators and scholars in general have stated this transformation was not figurative but literal. They did not live long, nor did they procreate. I have always used this Quranic story to highlight mainly 2 points. Number one, Muslims should not use the quote-unquote letter of the law to justify or maneuver around the quote-unquote spirit of the law. And two, in the face of evil or wrongdoing, Muslims should not participate in the act, remain silent or neutral. It was those two groups who were transformed. The group of Jews who were not punished by this transformation were those who were steadfast in their adherence to the Sabbath. And I usually make a passing reference to some protesters who would refer to Jews as quote-unquote sons of monkeys and pigs, and clarify that this is Islamically incorrect. I guarantee that if one were to listen to the entire section of that talk, it would be clear that this talk had very little or anything to do with Jews. It was a Quran-based historical reference which promotes Islamic morals and ethics. Issue number 4, the reference to Jews getting expelled from Medina. Anyone who knows a seerah or biography of the Prophet, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, knows that they were not expelled from Medina because they were Jewish. These 3 Jewish tribes were expelled on different occasions due to various acts of treason against the quote-unquote state, not because they were Jewish. Again, context is everything. Issue number 5. Again, just like everything else mentioned in this smear campaign, all one would have to do is ignore the carefully tailored clips and refer to the original unedited lecture. In short, this is issue number 5 I'm reading, the reference to black nationalism, right? In short, black nationalism suggests that people should control the economy, politics, politicians, etc. in their communities. The definition was inspired by Malcolm X in his famous lecture called The Ballot or the Bullet, which can easily be located on YouTube and elsewhere on the internet. There is nothing wrong, subversive, or criminal about this. Almost every other community exercises this right, but somehow this becomes newsworthy when we express the same aspirations. Number 6, living under occupation, quote unquote, and other related references. These comments were made after a young unarmed boy named Antoine Rose Jr. was shot in the back after he jumped out of a car that was pulled over by police officer Michael Rosefeld in East Pittsburgh, which is a small borough outside of the city of Pittsburgh. As a Muslim imam who happens to be black, whose congregation is overwhelmingly black, it is my duty to provide textually based spiritual guidance and context to the prevailing issues of the day. The extrajudicial murder of unarmed, non-threatening black people is one of those issues. Eric Gardner choked to death on camera for allegedly selling cigarettes in front of a store. 12-year-old Tamir Rice shot to death for playing with a toy pistol outside. Sandra Bland pulled over for a turn signal, arrested, and turns up dead in her cell. And we could literally go on and on and on with dozens, if not hundreds, of similar horrific killings of unarmed black people. In the same way that our Muslim brothers of Palestinian origin reserve the right to speak on their issues, the same way that our brothers from the Indian subcontinent address issues such as the Kashmir problem, we likewise reserve the right to address social justice problems, which directly affect the African American community, and there is nothing un-Islamic about that. The 7th issue. In an attempt, I believe, to rally the emotions of their readers behind this false narrative, they stoop so low as to mention one of the most disgusting attacks upon Jewish people in this country. Just in case anyone has forgotten, the one guilty of the October 27, 2018 massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue was Robert Bowers. He was not Muslim, not black, not a black nationalist, not echoing rhetoric from the Middle East, or any of that. He was/is white, digested and espoused the rhetoric of white identity extremists, and this diet of real hate speech translated into the real deaths of 11 innocent people on their Sabbath, in their place of worship. Where is all of the pseudo-journalism and investigative reporting on Robert Bowers, his connections, his religious affiliations, and the remainder of his ilk? This is a real, clear, and present danger to our community. Not some small-time imam with a small social media following and an even smaller real-life following who had his words cherry-picked, recontextualized, and sticks together to form this false narrative such as myself. In conclusion, it was not my intention to address or untangle all of the less than half-truths used to construct this false narrative of anti-Semitism, etc., which is being used against me. My only intent was to go on record and challenge these false allegations. To my Muslim family, imams, scholars, and leaders, if I have said anything that was Islamically incorrect, baseless, false, or inciting to violence, I am more than willing to offer a retraction, correction, and a public apology. We all make mistakes, and no one, especially me, is above correction. I'll end with this general advice to myself and all of you, which comes from the Quran. O you who believe, if there comes to you a disobedient one with information, investigate, lest you harm people out of ignorance and become over what you have done regretful. And this is from the Quran, Surah Hujurat, which is chapter number 49, verse number 6. The same translation that I've been using, International Translation. So that's the end of... I hope my connection is good this time. Inshallah, we will post the video up on YouTube. We'll post the video up on YouTube. And once again, we will send a written text to as many people as possible. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, Saleh, Isa. I don't know if you were in the last live feed I just did a few minutes ago, but I lost my connection. It looks like I'm about to lose it again. SubhanAllah. I lost my connection before, and I'm trying to reconnect now. It's telling me that I'm losing the connection again. SubhanAllah. I didn't have this problem the whole time. I'm back. Allahu Akbar. I don't know if you all heard me, but I was mentioning how, staying alight. I'm just outside, it's so comfortable out here. I was just mentioning how my last live feed where I read my statement with regards to a couple of slanderous articles were published about me claiming that I'm anti-Semitic and all of this nonsense. I just read my official statement, and I'm back just in case anyone has any comments or questions or anything you want to add to it, inshallah. We will post that on our YouTube channel and all of our media outlets, inshallah. Some people may ask, somebody asked a question in a thread when I announced that I was going to make a statement. Somebody asked a good question. Am I going to write to MEMRI, this the organization who started this slander? And the answer is no, because if you really take a look at the extent at which all the gymnastics they had to do in order to create that slander, it's clear from the outset that they intended to distort my words. There's nothing objective or anything about it. This was a straight up slander attack piece. There's no way that you can come away from any of those lectures, classes, or anything that I've given and come away with any of the conclusions that they came with. They literally will take one sentence from one part of a lecture, connect it to another sentence from another lecture, and then, it's crazy. And then they even try to allude to the false notion that my rhetoric is Middle Eastern inspired by rhetoric from the Middle East. They must not know who they're talking to. If I'm getting inspiration from anybody, it's from our West African scholars. And if you know anything about Islam in the West African context, we get along with all non-Muslims who live in our communities. We don't have that problem. I had to stand up. I got tired of sitting down. So we don't have this problem of, being intolerant and not able to live and coexist with other people. That's not our issue. That's someone else's issue, not our issue. And this is one of the reasons why, I love our scholars from the West African paradigm. We don't have a problem living with Christians or Jews or whatever. Forget what you hear in the media and all that kind of stuff. Come here. The Christians and Jews and other non-Muslims, they don't have no problem, coexisting and practicing their religion historically or right now. In fact, right here in Gambia, a lot of times the Christians, they come to the Muslim Eid festivals. We have some Gambians watching online. They can bear witness to this. These are the people we draw our inspiration from. And they're always trying to redirect. I mean, that really upset me that they tried to invoke that massacre that happened at the Tree of Life Synagogue. I mean, this guy literally waited to the Sabbath and got on his social media platform and said what he was going to do. He said, "Screw the optics, I'm going in." And this person, you don't have to make up a narrative to prove that he hates Jews. This person literally called Jews the sons of Satan. I mean, you don't have to do a lot of editorial gymnastics to figure out what this guy, his hatred for Jews are, and his rhetoric translated into the depths of real people. But then they're going to turn around and try to look for some other people and try to weave together this nonsense. So I can go on talking for forever and ever. So, alhamdulillah, I don't intend on addressing MEMRI or whatever their acronym is directly, because they are a bunch of liars, and their only intent is to slander Muslims and, try to target us for all types of smear campaigns and other nonsense. So, I'm not going to go to my oppressor and try to plead my case to them. That's ridiculous. That's nonsense. If they want to know what I've said, they can go to the same way they went to my YouTube channel to pick apart all of those lectures to create that false narrative. They can go to the YouTube channel right now to get this talk. or they can go to our website and get the written form of this lecture. And I guarantee you that they won't put the whole thing up. They'll pick it apart and connect it with something else. And this is what they do. And I have no control over what they do, but I do have control over what I do and what I say. So alhamdulillah, if there are no questions right now, I'm going to leave. I'm going to sign out. If there are any other comments or whatever, you can leave it in the comments, and I will answer them, inshallah. Pray that you all have a good evening.